Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we're back with a wisdom panel. I love these wisdom panels. And this one is all about curiosity and the places that we'll go when we're curious. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to our panel, and then we're going to dive right in. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments, and we will address your questions. Kim DeYoung is a choice coach, a creator of the choice mapping system, and an incredible connector. She's also the author of the Book of Choice. Jen Urezzio is the founder of Soul Language, a pioneering system that puts tangibility to the soul. Carol Walkner is an energy healer, clairvoyant, medium, Narcissist-Slayer, speaker, and coach. Beth Knaus is a award-winning copywriter, messaging consultant, CEO of That's a Spade Copywriting Services, and Anita Adams is a spiritual entrepreneur, creator of the Wisdom Way method, host of the Joyful Journey podcast. She's a speaker and an author of a brand new book, Whispers of the Soul. So, welcome everybody, and we are just going to dive right in and let's just talk about your curious journey. So let's kind of go around the room, say hello, and talk about what makes you curious. How has it changed as you've crossed over the divide of 50 or 60 or whatever? So Kim, do you want to start?
Yeah, I love that question. I feel like everything about how I live is about being curious. I mean, all I really want to do is to ask people questions about who they are, how they got to where they are, what they want to do now that they're where they are, how they want to look back at where they were. I mean, I just find people and their journeys fascinating. And I'm also curious about mine. I love digging into my own self about it. So I think it's a beautiful experience both to focus outward and to focus inward.
Okay. Anita?
Yeah, my curious journey, I guess it really began when things were tough. And I turned to one of my mentors and coaches at the time. And she just really encouraged me to get curious about what was going on and what I really wanted. And that journey has been enlightening because it helps to alleviate any stress and you find clarity when you get curious, put on your wonder goggles and be curious about what's going on for yourself and around you, and it can be quite a beautiful experience.
I love that term, wonder goggles. Carol?
Hi, everyone. Yes, curiosity seems to be one of the watchwords of my whole life. I was always, what's going on with you? What's happening? And part of my my healing work and my coaching work is I keep asking people, who are you now? What do you want to do? And when I blew up my life several years ago, I asked myself those same questions, got curious about me, and created this fabulous life I have. And I can remember sitting on a subway train in Manhattan and wondering, okay, what's that person's life like? How did they get here on this train? And so it's always been the questions.
Jennifer?
My father used to say I love to people watch, and I think that is where the curiosity began.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm always interested about what makes you tick and why are you doing it that way and why am I doing this way? And once I started really accepting that I could be a conscious warrior instead of making war with my life, curiosity really played an important part in that, because I felt a deeper sense of safety, not to be totally in control of everything, but to have a deeper sense of, let's see where this goes. Let's see what happens. And that creates more freedom in our lives and more energetic flow.
Yeah, that's great. And Beth?
Yeah, so I think that curiosity has always helped me not get stuck. If you can keep asking questions, you can keep finding your way along whatever path it is that you're on. And it also allows you, I think, to be in the perspective of other people when you keep asking questions and you're curious about them and who they are and how they got there.
Yeah, I love it. And I just want to mention quickly, like, why you all came to the surface when I was, putting together the panel. And, Kim had mentioned that, like, she lives to ask questions. Kim and I can get on a phone call and we could be on a call for like 2 hours. And then at the end of the call, say, like, oh, we never talked about what we were supposed to talk about initially, because we just keep going off in all of these directions because we ask each other questions. And Anita, when I first met you, one of the first things that you said to me was that you lead with curiosity. And I was like, okay, she's my people. And Carol plays with dragons. These are her partners. And Jen created an entire language to connect with your soul. I mean, how much more curious can you get than that? And Beth, you take words and you weave them into, you know, you not only weave them, but you boil them down, because I'm sure what people give you are volumes of information that you can boil down into a paragraph or two. And that takes a whole lot of yes and. So I just wanted to share how this panel came together. And I'm really excited to kind of dig in a little deeper. So let's talk about the intersection of curiosity, innovation, and creativity. And whoever wants to go, and let's just make this a conversation.
I
So-
love that. I love that question, and that even just looking at the way you've got all those words in that beautiful arithmetic sentence. I think about when I create a choice map, and it begins with a question. And I always think I'm asking this person on the other side of an experience something about themselves. I don't know them. I don't know where we're going to go. I have no idea about the journey, and I just trust. And I always tell them as we begin the experience, it's going to be magical. Because I know that. Because I know that as we dig and we dig and we dig, they've got interesting information inside of them that they've never thought about. So my curious brain gets to let loose to see what comes. And somebody always has this magical information inside. So it's been a beautiful thing that I've experienced, that I use curiosity to create everything that I do.
I love that you said that we have this beautiful information inside of us. We need to give ourselves the space to really tap into and find that piece that's inside of us, that creativity, the innovation. And to do that, you got to step away from the busyness and the craziness of your life and honor yourself. And give yourself the time to look inward, to be curious, to, like I said earlier, have that childlike wonder, the wonder goggles. And you can explore yourself that way. If we can step away from our crazy lives and give us time to be curious and look inward, you're going to discover all sorts of magic, all sorts of possibilities for your life. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to be innovative and creative, which I consider myself that kind of person, and I surround myself with those kinds of people, clients, friends, relationships. I think in order to do that, you need to have an open mind. Mm-hmm. And if you're not curious, you're not open-minded, right? You have to be willing to go, I don't know where this road's going to lead, or I don't even know why I'm going down this step, but if I just have an open mind and I'm full of curiosity, the innovation is like, it's almost tangible. You can also feel it coming. And I think that, highly creative people are very open-minded. They want to see something that's never been seen before. And they want to ask those questions of people to find those support partners to make those creativities, innovations come alive.
Yeah, I love these three words together, because I find when I'm dealing with people that very few people consider themselves creative, and yet we know that all of us are. And of course, creativity is about coming up with these really great ideas, and innovation is about making an attempt to implement those ideas. But you can't have creativity if you don't have curiosity, right? You have to be asking questions and exploring to come up with some new idea. So I love it.
And for me, as a medical intuitive, I have to ask 9 billion questions to get to the root of their concern and their problem or their pain. And it's so interesting to, I'm not a doctor, but to literally use my x-ray vision and see inside some people and say, oh, you have a pain in your shoulder. Okay, it feels emotional. I think it's your mother. Let's pull her out of your shoulder today. And it's like, and they're looking at me like, okay, but when the pain goes away, they're going, oh, thank you. And the creativity, we have to have the curiosity to allow our brains to keep going and going and asking and wondering. I love the wonder goggles. And because that's how we get the answers for our clients and friends and whomever we're curious about.
I got a question.
Yes.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
I want to know from this panel, do you feel like you have to be courageous to be curious? You're muted. You're muted, Jen.
I muted myself because the dog decided to get curious with her barking. No, I think courage is such an integrated part of being human, right? In order to take any step outside of your box or your norm, you're going to have that courage. You have to tap into that. And I think they kind of go hand in hand, especially for me. I think sometimes to ask those questions takes a lot of courage. I mean, I've known Kim for like 20 years and she's asked some amazing questions that I'm like, I don't think I would have the courage to ask that question. Like, that's kind of probing. And yet, yes, let's go there. So I think they're one and the same.
Yeah. I wanted to say something that's interesting that you made me think of when you asked that question, Anita, which is, I have 3 children, and my youngest at one point, it was relatively recently, he said, Mom, what do you think I need to do? Like, where's my growth opportunity? I said, your growth opportunity is to ask questions of others, because I think the younger generation doesn't necessarily do that. And he said, but how do I do that? I said, the simplest could be, tell me more. What happened last week, what happened when you went home with something. And it's hard to do it. And it's an interesting thing to tell the next generation of, like, what does it mean to be courageous to ask a question of another person, not knowing where it's going to go, but to be open to the power of what could happen in that conversation. Yeah. It's really important.
I think you need to let go of the fear of what the answer might be.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's where the courageousness comes in.
Yeah.
Because I think we often don't ask the questions that need to be asked, whether it's of somebody else or ourselves, because we're afraid of the answer.
Yes.
But when you can put that aside, then you'll uncover things that you never would have uncovered if you sat in your fear.
Yeah, I actually feel like I agree with what Jen said. And then the flip of that also is that by being curious and asking questions, you can get clarity and information that helps you be courageous in whatever your next choice is and what you decide to do.
It's really good stuff. Yeah. And then, so kind of an offshoot of this, and we had a pre-panel call. And on this call, Jen said, pride chokes curiosity, which we were all stopped in our tracks when she said that. And let's talk about this, because it's not only fear that gets in the way, but it's also pride, and they are so intertwined. So I would love to hear from some of the spiritual folks here on how do we address that pride, that fear.
I'll go. So often we'll hear, especially as master healers, we'll hear, oh, but I worked on that before. And I've said it myself, like, oh, I've worked on that, right? Like that kind of, I've done it, I've done good, I am better. That kind of pride stops any real deep introspective work. And, there's a great part of reflection, but when we move into that pride, we're actually stopping the evolutionary process because we believe that we know better. Mm-hmm. And I listen, I can be prideful, but I also know the more I know, the less I know. And that kind of attitude allows me to go, okay, I really might not know what I'm talking about here, or there might be a bigger question, or maybe there's something more that I get to explore about myself. So when we let that go, and pride only for me comes from a feeling of not feeling good enough or not being enough. And when I pause and I activate enoughness from there, then the pride dissipates and then I can move into curiosity pretty quickly.
I think Nancy hit it on the nose by saying isn't pride a form of fear? It is. It really is. Yeah, we're so afraid sometimes to show our insecurities that we don't ask questions. We don't seek help. We don't explore new possibilities because we feel it's going to reveal our weaknesses or something our inadequacies. But I loved what you said, Jen, about it stops the evolutionary process. That's so true. We can't evolve if we don't get curious and ask and step out of our comfort zone. So,
and step into beginner mind. I think that's it, to the point that's being shared. It's like, we think we know, we think we've been there. And what does it mean to go into anything, like to come into this conversation, to come into work with a client, with a child, with whomever, and assume we don't know, and to be okay with not knowing. And in the not knowing, have the ability to ask the question, to dig a little deeper, and to admit that we don't know. Like that is, that takes courage, put it that way. That definitely takes courage.
Yeah. Carol, how does this show up in the body?
So that's a very, very good question. So fear is a kidney bladder issue. So you would have lower back pain, and grief, disappointment, sadness is a large intestine issue. So whenever I'm working with a client and I feel like there's an elephant standing on my chest, I go right there, get curious and say, okay, what are you disappointed about? What are you sad about? Are you grieving something? And grief could be I lost my job, or I stubbed my toe. I mean, there's all levels of grief. So it helps me be curious and ask the right questions. So we go into the emotional issue, and then I clear, and I clear what's going on in their body, and then I can breathe again. And I also loved what Jen said about the not enoughness. That really that stops a lot of us until we realize, and it makes us be curious maybe about our own selves, to say, okay, oops, why is this coming up? Because we've had 10 other scenarios that we were enough. So we can ditch that not enoughness.
And Beth, this must come up in your work.
Oh, it totally does. I mean, even, as a writer, for me, it comes up in, writer's block or procrastination, but I see it in when people feel that they're in a vulnerable place based on questions that I'm asking them to figure out what their clear message is. Yeah, pride definitely does come in there. It's a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah. Amazing. I could talk about this all day long. All right, we're going to segue into something else. So, how you approach decisions and choices through curiosity.
I'll jump into that, since I live in the world of choice. One of the things that I experience with people is taking them, let's just imagine you want to understand more of who you were, and to look back at a choice that you made, maybe one that you have regret, maybe shame, something, and to really go in there, like, who was I when I made that choice? How was I showing up? Like, to be open to going somewhere that may be painful and be hard, to get that information so that you can heal. And it's interesting, I'm thinking about Carol, like, what would happen for somebody if they really had that deep experience of exploring their past, their stuff, things that they're sitting with regret and shame about, and really went there? How might that shift how they're feeling in their body?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And, exploring how to make decisions for me and what I coach my clients is, again, carving out time for yourself so you understand who you really are and what you want. And there was a study done a while ago that said that something like 2 to 3% of North Americans know their core values. Only 2 to 3% of people. And that shocked me. But it also, I also went, yeah, you know what? I was one of those people before I really started to look inward and understand who I am and what I want. And that's where we got to start. If we want to make a decision, any decision, we need to understand what's here, who we are, instead of who society tells us we are, or the expectations of our partners and whatnot. So investing that time looking inward to understand who you are, what you want, will help you find the clarity. And that's all curious work, right? It's all being curious, but it'll help you find the clarity so you can make the decisions that are really aligned with you, with who you really are.
As part of my coaching program, I ask, what are your core values? Narrow them down to 1 or 2, and then when are they honored and respected, and when are they not, by yourself and by others? And then I've added, what are your lifestyle values? So how do you spend your time and your money? How do you want to do that? So many people think they know their core values, but it's interesting to watch their puzzled expressions as they dig into, I'm not sure about that, but and then to live life from that place of value that's deep inside of us.
I think people aren't curious enough about the questions. I find that people keep asking the same questions and they're like, I don't like the answer. Ask a different question, right? I make decisions based on a full body yes, right? But that also takes a very good question, right? Because I could go, is this in the greatest good of all for me to go to this conference? And I get a full body yes. And then I go to the conference and I get to have a really good growth experience. Yay. But that's really not what I wanted to experience, right? So it's like a curiosity of, is this in the greatest good of all to experience or do, with the understanding that I want to evolve and grow my business, right? That's a much bigger question. And so often we kind of just pigeonhole ourselves in these questions without a lot of curiosity. So I think about when you're curious about your own questions, the decision making is more apparent, easier.
Yeah, and I think the clear decision doesn't come with one question, right? So you have to keep asking questions. You have to be patient and take the time to dive a little deeper. And people want to stay surface sometimes, and you're just not going to get the purest answer or results that way.
What you're saying, Beth, is very interesting. I was just interviewed on a podcast, and a woman was speaking with me regarding decisions about like the pro and con list. And isn't that a good and a valid tool to use to make a decision? And I said, look, I've certainly done a pro and con list, as I'm sure many of us have, but that doesn't take you into the depth of like, why do I want that thing? And then following with deeper, more pointed, granular questions that really give you information. And I think to that point, it's like having your own personal curiosity to be willing to continue asking and seeing where you go. And people are scared because, either they think they don't have a process or don't know how to do it. But if there were a bit of trust, to just sort of experiment with that a bit and see where you land.
Yeah. And Bryn brings us to the next topic that I was going to talk about is in terms of core values and curiosity. She's wondering about the interplay of wonder and fun, or wonder and play. So, I mean, so many people will just stay in the minutia of the tasks and the things that need to get done and the surface level. But like, how does this become fun? How does this become a joyful thing to do? And I know we can all go on about this for hours, but let's dive in.
I often think having warrior energy and having people who have warrior energy, warriors tend to think fun and play is kind of weak. And it's truly not. It's actually creates something totally unexpected, and it leads to huge opening and huge flow. The biggest release I ever got was from laughter, not from crying. And so when you kind of understand that play and wonder and fun are tools that can be utilized to create something amazing, that curiosity kind of just seeps in, and you can utilize it as good fuel to create what you want.
Fun and play lead to creativity. It's an incredible release. It helps to break the habits, that force mentality or push mentality that society again pushes onto us, that we need to hustle to make things happen. No, we need to stop and play and have some fun. And then we discover all sorts of creative solutions to our challenges. We discover, it gives us space for answers and solutions to any challenges to bubble up to the surface when we give ourselves time to play. Fun is actually one of my core values. I have 4: freedom, fun, flexibility, and family. How can I forget family? They're at the top of the list. And I use those 4 core values in making any major life decision. I always tell my clients that they should have 4 core main values, and then 3 need to be checked off when you're making a big decision, and that, for me, that really helps. And fun is really high up there for me,
I think that when it comes to fun and wonder and play as adults, it takes us back to a different time where we think about being kids, and at that time everything felt safe, and everything's light, and there's no judgment. And I think it's a great thing to do to inspire curiosity, because you're feeling all of those things. You're not feeling like, what do people think about what I'm saying and doing right now? And so I think there's a great benefit to that, to having fun.
Yeah. Now, for me, my childhood was not full of fun and non-judgment. And I used curiosity to create an entirely different world that kept me safe from my own childhood.
Wow.
And, I had a whole family that I made up. And, it's amazing what you could do. And I still tap into that sometimes. Like, you can create your own reality, even if the reality that you have isn't the one that you want.
Which also attracts to you the reality you want, right?
Yeah.
When you move into that space. Beautiful.
Yeah. Let's, this is going to be another great topic to talk about. The energy of curiosity fuels what?
Joy,
Insight.
Connection.
Confidence.
Everything.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, like, my favorite thing working is when I get a completed questionnaire from a client, and it's really completed. Like, they took a week to fill this out, and they asked me questions, and like, I get 30 pages back of questionnaire, and I sit with it. Like, I'll just sit there with like a highlighter in one hand and Post-its in the other hand. And I just sit there at this moment of, it's like, okay, so we're never going back to this moment, because I'm going to dive into this, and I'm going to change this person's world, because I'm going to find things I don't even know what they are, and they certainly don't know what they are. And that is, like, in all the years I've been doing this, that's the moment of anticipation, the moment that I know that there's no going back to what used to be, and I love it. I love it.
I'm going to share something. Tomorrow, I'm doing a workshop with college seniors. And I was thinking, how will I engage? And I'm going to open up the conversation with, what does it mean to consider the next steps of your life? Now, I don't know what their answers are going to be. I'll give them some thought joggers to see where they go. But the truth is, like, that, whatever their answers are, is going to fuel where the conversation goes. And to be in that play of, I have a plan, but I really am going to let it go, or let the plan morph from whatever they share. And I'm so excited to see what they come up with in that experience. I mean, that just feels like magic to me to be in that with them.
Yeah. And Sunny is chiming in with the energy of curiosity feels expansion. Like, let's talk about that for a moment. What's expanding?
Everything.
Back to connection. Connection
Yeah.
is expanding.
Yeah, and I think what Jen said earlier, it's part of your evolution, right? When you're curious, you're growing. So it's an awakening process, you might even say.
Right. Opportunity, possibilities, things that come out of it.
Yeah.
It also gets you, hi Sunny, it also gets you on board with expansion through ease, right? So often people fight expansion, but if you're curious about it, it allows you to kind of expand with a lot more grace, a lot more breadth versus the death grip of control. And since resistance is futile, I'm willing to get on board with, the ease, the grace, the simple, rather than, although I've done the death grip of control, it's just not fun.
No, that's when we need Carol.
Yeah.
Let go.
So, Carol, how do we let go of the death grip of control?
Call me. No. So the year that I blew up my life or made huge changes, my word was freedom. And I was very curious because I was in the death grip of control of I have to stay here, I can't leave this relationship, I have to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what if things could be better? What if, if my life could be wonderful instead of okay? So put everything in storage, left a long time relationship and drove from New York to California and never looked back, and the happiest I've ever been. So like I let go, and it was faith and trust that I would be led to the right place or the right goal and eventuality, and faith in the universe. The universe has my back, and I'm on this journey, even though I'm in my 60s. It's okay. That was years ago. And it's been fabulous. So that curiosity led me to let go of that death grip. And so, yes, I'll show you how.
I had a death grip when I had my house. And I ended a relationship. My son was very young. I was still working in my corporate job. And I had like a sick brother in New Jersey and a sick mother in Florida. I had like more responsibility than anybody should ever have. And I just felt like I needed this house that I hated. I didn't like the town. I didn't like the house. I didn't like anything. And I just said to a friend of mine, I said, well, I have to keep the house because I don't know if I'll ever be able to buy another one again. And she just asked me, why? Why do you want this house? Why do you want to keep it? And that changed everything. Within 6 weeks, I sold my house, moved to a condo, and started my path onto maintenance-free living, which I'm really like 20 years in now, and it's wonderful. But she just asked me that one simple question, and this whole like impenetrable castle that I built for myself just crumbled. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was what I was curious for you, Donna, was what did the question of why open up for you that allowed you to break through something so
I was just in such a spin that like the thing that was going to hold everything together of all the things that were unraveling all over the place was holding on to this house. And I didn't know why. And she just asked me that one question, and the house just like felt like a house of cards. And I moved forward, and like a year later I quit my job and started a business. So it really opened up all of these opportunities to see what else was out there, because I mean, even with my work, I never worked anywhere else. I worked in law firms for more than 20 years. So like I didn't even realize that it would be opportunities to do something else. And that really opened up curiosity to me in an entirely different way, and asking questions and not being afraid of the questions.
We're
is so
I
important.
want to jump in and ask you, Donna, was that, were you letting go of expectations or perceived expectations of
Oh,
what you
yeah.
thought others wanted of you? Yeah.
Well, the house represented safety and
Sure. And
family
society
and
tells us
yeah,
that we
yeah,
should have.
yeah. Oh, when I was pregnant, I had to have this house.
Yeah.
I never wanted a house.
Yeah.
I like an incinerator room and like, people that handle the snow removal.
Well, I think this is so beautiful because this is exactly what the energy of curiosity helps you to discover is what you really want.
Yeah,
Not
but
what
that was
other
never
people tell you what you want.
that was never an option for me
Right.
because the unhappy childhood was me taking care of everybody else. And when this was such a big part of me letting all of that go and creating the life that I wanted, which was
Beautiful.
everybody thought I lost my mind, leaving that job and selling my house. But I took the money from the house and I started a business.
Love it. Great.
So tell me more about this, Beth. How does this feed into what you do? Because I know that you probably experience a lot of the same things that I do when I get that completed questionnaire.
Oh yeah, it's so great because then there are just more questions, right?
Yeah.
You get the questionnaire and you know that person has invested in their curiosity about how do they want to show up, right?
Yeah.
Because most of the people I work with, they are their business.
Yes.
And so you can't really show up with clarity and confidence if you don't really dig deep and figure out what that is. And
Yeah.
it feels really good when you do it and you're being supported by somebody else who's going to help you.
Yeah. When you're open to what other people could see as possible for you because they can't see it yet.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's such a special place.
Yeah.
Now we've got a couple of authors in the room here. So when you wrote your books, how does this feed into the writing of a book and the vulnerability of sharing things you may never have shared in some other way?
My book took me 10 years to write, and I never saw myself as a writer, but I knew that because essentially my book began with questions that I asked myself, questions I asked others, and it was the digging and the deep dive conversations that led to the information that allowed me to formulate the book. And, I think from a place of vulnerability, it was, of course, that age-old, who am I to be sharing this? But I got over that quickly because I realized that part of what I had tapped into in the depth of the inquiry that I had gone with other people was I had really tapped into truth. So because I asked so many questions and we pulled out so much stuff, I thought I have really landed in like places of gold. And now it's my responsibility. How do I take all of this information that I've gathered because I've been so curious and because people have opened up so openly to me? How do I take this and make sense of it? So there was a big journey in that, but it was a weaving together of like all of these answers to create something.
Mm. And Anita, this is all very fresh for you. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
Anita has a book that's like launching now.
Yeah. So my book is actually, it's a lot about what we're talking about today. And it was fueled by that inward looking question, who am I? What do I really want? And the things that bubbled up, from within and the fear that it evoked, because when we listen, so my book is called Whispers of the Soul. It's about tuning in and listening to the whispers, tuning into your soul. And your soul voice, when it speaks to you, it speaks of your potential and the greatness that we all have within us. And that's scary. And it was really scary. Like I wanted to run away and push it away and ignore it and whatnot. But it felt like this was mine to do, and sharing that question and encouraging others to really look inward and ask, be curious about who am I? Who am I? What do I really want? And allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow whatever is within your heart and soul to come forward. So, Yeah, it still scares the hell out of me. It really does. Yeah,
And it will for another week.
yes, yeah, but yeah.
No, Bryn is weighing in that she's noticed how the word experiments removes the heaviness and pops open curiosity and possibility.
Love
Um,
that.
anyone want to weigh in on this?
I would love to. Interestingly, Bryn, one of the things that I often do when I'm speaking with someone about a choice, and I will say, I choose to do X, whatever X may be. Instead of the word experiment, I'll often have them include the word explore. I choose to explore I choose to explore moving, I choose to explore a new relationship, I choose to explore changing my job. And the concept of explore, experiment, it opens up, there's like a softness. It's a bit less committal, and it opens up this sense of possibility and curiosity just there, because you don't have to know. I think the softness is really what I've experienced, opens people's thoughts up to going a little bit deeper.
Good.
And when I wrote my book, I self-published it. It's a book workbook, and I was in my 60s, so my give a darn factor was way low by then. And it's a book filled with questions, and they were the questions I was asking myself at that time. Who am I? What do I value? What really matters in my life now? And so I was the experiment. I was the petri dish wondering what was going to happen with all these words. And it was also what you were just saying. It was about exploring all the possibilities. It's like, we're here right now. This is one possibility, but look at all the other ones that could be potentially out there. So that's what I was doing, is exploring everything and being totally curious. And of course, nobody buys the book because they don't want to do the work. So all my friends bought the book, but nobody. Oh, it's pretty. Yeah, we're not gonna write in it and do the work. But they hire me to do the work, so that's okay.
When I wrote my, I have feedback. When I wrote my second book, I wrote it because someone mentioned it to me on a beach. They're like, "When are you writing that book of prayers?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I know that the divine just spoke through you for me to write this book. And then I had to move into a space of curiosity for myself, or it was going to be hard to write that book versus staying in and kind of determining what I wanted to do, what was right for me from a place of convenience rather than from a place of evolution.
I have to say, last year I worked on a project where I edited 21 stories and wrote one in the book. And I had to keep asking people questions about their stories. They were pretty raw and deep stories. And I would ask these questions and they'd say, "Oh, I never thought of that." Meanwhile, they were, like cutting open a vein and sharing so much personal stuff. And I'd be like, well, the reader is going to want to know about that. Like the things that people don't think to ask and that people are going to be curious about in writing and when they're reading.
It certainly is an invitation to open up. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left. And one of the things that I like to do, and I think we're going to take a little bit of time to do this because I think you're all going to have a lot to contribute. I like to leave everyone with a wisdom bomb. So share something that you want everybody to know about curiosity, something that they can make actionable in their own life, in their own business, or within themselves.
So I'll go take a piece of paper and put the words "I am" in the middle, draw a heart around it, and then start making the lists of everything you are, all the positive stuff. Then you can ask your friends or people, don't ask your family, ask your friends and others what good things they would say about you. And add your brilliances and everything that you're curious about yourself, and keep that list around for a week or so and just keep adding to it, and you'll be amazed how amazing you are and how more curious you can be.
And I'll layer on to what Carol's saying, which I really love, which is to look at what is possible for you. So to imagine that there's something you want in your life, and then to say, what becomes possible for me if I step into this, if I do this, and to allow yourself to have the curiosity to dream of what that could be. And to maybe do that exercise both alone and with someone else, because they'll likely think bigger for you than you can for yourself. But to like allow yourself to go deep, big, out there, like places you haven't thought, to see where you could maybe go.
I would to jump in and add something here. If you want to develop or strengthen your courageous and curiosity muscle, you can do this one simple thing. Carve out some time, 10, 15, 20 minutes every day, and go for a mindful walk in nature. And this one simple act will transform your life. It will transform your life. This is time where you can experience the awe of a natural environment and connect with your higher self and get curious. Put those wonder goggles on and get really curious about who you are, what you want, and why it matters. Those are 3 great questions that you can walk with. And if you did that every day for even a couple weeks, you would see a big difference in your courageous and curiosity muscle.
This makes me think of something my dad used to say all the time, and it aggravated me then, and now I can see. Whether you're going into something that's challenging or something that's wonderful, and you don't know the outcome, he would always say, it's going to be okay. No matter what happens, it's going to be okay. And that really opens the door to be curious about anything and to really just keep exploring and not hesitate. Just because it's going to turn out okay, although okay may not be how you're thinking about it initially.
You're muted, Jen.
Damn dog. I always tell clients that activate that they're whole and complete, and then ask the question, if I knew I was whole and complete and I was curious, what would I say? What would I do? What would I be here? And make action from that versus pain and programming.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Anybody from the audience want to weigh in? We have one comment from Sunny, and she's saying that she finds that pulling curiosity forward in moments when she's faced with failure is super supportive. That's a great comment, Sunny.
Well, it's sort of what, again, failure is kind of holding you in the past, and curiosity is pulling you into the future. So it's sort of that, that there's that shift there. So when you are curious, you have of course you can be curious about what the past was, but just the nature of the inquiry is moving you forward. So out of something that you may not be aligned with. I think a question that I have for all of us, and this is just some ways in my thoughts a lot, as I speak to a lot of emerging adults, kind of adults under 30, it's like, what can we really do to support them to open up, to be curious? I find, again, just with technology and texting and all of that, they stay so insular in a little box. And what does it take to open their thoughts to realizing the power of the question? That's something that really weighs on my thoughts a lot. And
Nancy is weighing in with, she gets a lot of comfort from remembering that she's enough, she's okay, and she's loved. That's great, Nancy. Thank you for sharing. And Nancy, is there anything that you, any strategies that you use or anything that you'd like to share?
I have a curiosity question for Nancy.
Oh, okay. Jump right in.
What does the LI stand for?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
All right. That was obvious. I'm thinking like Long Island, like Legacy, like, okay, like it.
That's great. Oh, wait, let me go back to Nancy for a minute. Nancy, did you have anything else to add? Just pop it in the comments if you do. Does anybody else have strategies that they use for?
I can ask questions and not feel safe being vulnerable when it's especially obvious answer to everyone.
Any strategies for how you remind yourself that you're enough?
I activate it. I use my body's lack of free will to activate it. So that is divine intelligence. Activate a knowing and a feeling that I'm enough. And I do it until I feel the shift in my body.
I walk in nature. Am I hammering that nail over the head a lot? But nature for me helps me find my confidence and belief in self. Because again, I disconnect from the noise of society and all the shoulds and whatnot. It's such a powerful tool and accessible to everybody.
And I think whenever I'm in a place of less than in any way, it becomes an opportunity to look at truly what is going on, what am I feeling, what is triggering me, and to look. Because I know in theory that I'm not, but that doesn't dismiss that in the moment I feel that I am. So to assess that, and that's just internal inquiry and internal curiosity.
Well, I think this is one of the great things about the Real 50 Over 50, right? Is that once you're over 50, you have a history that proves that you're enough, right? We've all accomplished things, and we can just see that we're amazing, whether, we feel it sometimes or not. It's there. We have the proof.
Yeah. It's evidence.
Yeah.
We do have the evidence, and we need to remember that when we are in the belief that we're not enough. And the older I get, the more enough I totally am.
Yes.
I just think also you don't really care, meaning you don't care what everyone else, you're like, listen, I'm too busy, like, keeping myself going, like, I don't care about you. And I also think it's really important to surround yourself with really amazing individuals who will go, come on, Jen, and list all the ways that you're enough, or remind you, or lovingly, take you out and kind of slap you around a little until you know you're enough.
Yes. You did that for me not too long ago, Jen.
You've done it for me too.
And Carol, we could never get enough of you. Okay, so Nancy actually added some more to what she was saying. She says that she does not take herself too seriously, and that includes laughing, taking a higher perspective than my petty self. And then she's got a lot to say.
I'm going on record to say I want to meet Nancy. Like, I'm going on record.
You guys don't know each other.
I don't know Nancy.
Oh my goodness.
Now I feel like I do.
I love it.
You do. And you know where you could meet her?
Right here.
On LinkedIn.
Yeah. You don't have to hit me over the head once. Like, I get it. No, every time I think of LinkedIn,
that was just too
I'm
good.
going to think of Nancy. Which Nancy has now done her complete marketing on Jen, because I think of LinkedIn, I think of Nancy.
Nancy, connect with Jen.
Donna, there was something I saw prior to Nancy sharing. Bryn had shared something. It kind of popped up on the screen quickly, so I can't say I remember.
Okay, I'll go back. We
it
got
had
more.
some good magic to it.
Okay. Bryn said, Nancy, I do that backwards. It starts with feeling, being, then doing. Was that it?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a little bit more to this conversation, then we'll go back. And then Nancy is saying to Bryn, yes, it's to be, do, have. However, we all start out life in the wrong direction. Oh my God, we can go for another hour on that. And Nancy wants to meet Jen. Yay! A 50 over 50 love connection. I love it. All right, I'm going to go back and find Bryn's comments. This is probably it. Curiosity is just the best can opener to anything and the perfect WD-40 to dissolve my own not enough-ness whenever it has an opinion. Yes.
Are we giving out awards? Because if we are, I think Bryn gets it.
Yeah.
All right, I've got, will this work? It's like a sand globe with.
Yeah, it's Bryn's award. I don't care. Yeah, I don't have it. Like, but I think she should get it.
Okay. Is this curiosity and fun right now? Are we experiencing this?
Could be.
Bryn, do you want to weigh in more on this? You seem to have gotten the attention of the panel here.
Oh, wait. I want to meet Bryn, too. I don't want to, like, alienate Bryn.
Okay.
Bryn, I want to meet you, too.
All right. Everybody connect with everybody.
Yeah.
And these are all real 50 over 50 women, okay? So what I keep saying is the people that we're out there looking for are in this group of what is now 103 people so far. So just connect. I cannot say that enough. Every time there are connections, I get comments or emails or IMs saying like, oh my God, why didn't I know this person before? And it's just actually, Kim, can I talk about the little project that we're gonna do?
Yes, it's a good one.
Okay. So Kim and I are going to work on a choice map of the real 50 over 50 connections. So I'm going to be reaching out soon with a questionnaire of who you've connected with and what the impact has been, how you connected, and Kim and I are going to kind of put this through one of her map sessions.
It'll be a people map that clarifies, Donna, you connected to so-and-so people, and then we each may have connected to others, and it's really going to show the power of connection that truly all began with Donna and her idea and where it led.
Oh, here's what Bryn says. And here's what Sunny says. She wants to join the club, but she's got a few years to go. Okay, Sunny, you have to be a fan for a few years until you turn 50, and then you could join us. But yeah, I mean, this was my vision for this whole thing. It wasn't to create something where I'm charging $10 a month or do something like that. It was, I saw the power of the connection, and I saw that the way that we will all be more visible is through each other. And that's what this is all about.
So here's something I think, which is really interesting from a place of choice. What if the community of the women that you've gathered together, like if we really made the commitment, each of us, to choose to dig into like who each of the women are and what all the collaborative, interesting things are that we could do. Like I have got to believe from the perspective of like enoughness, we have like 10x, 100x of enoughness within just this community of 100 plus women.
Love that idea. Love it.
And Nancy is saying wisdom comes at many ages, 100%. This project was about what happens after you turn 50, because something chemical happens in your body, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I believed that before I turned 50. And now I'm turning 60 next week, and I've interviewed 57 women, and this is the 7th panel. And it is consistent across all of the interviews that something happens at 50. Mm-hmm. And Bryn, what are you saying? Oh, I'm a human wildfire. Well, maybe.
True.
Okay, so we have 1 minute left. Anybody have anything to add?
Just a big shout out to you, Donna. You're so awesome.
Thank you.
thank you, because, this is not just me, it's all of us, and we all have so much to share. And I just couldn't imagine doing any of this without any of you. I mean, some of us go back years and years and years, and some of us, we've just met, but it doesn't feel that way. And I just feel like we're at the beginning of something really special.
Thank you for gathering us all together.
Yeah.
This was very generative in so many ways. Hopefully for everyone listening as well as for all of us participating.
Thank you. Well, we're having too much fun to care about this, listeners.
And if you are listening on a replay, put the comments in, tag us. We will come back and we'll keep this conversation going, and connect with all of these lovely, wonderful, brilliant, wise women. And we're just getting started. We have a whole lot of ruckus to make.
And we're all curious about all of you out there. So
yes. Come join us. We've got a lot to share. And keep coming back. We've got interviews booked into January 2025. And next month's panel is going to be on mental wellness. And we've got topics all the way through the end of the year. So we'll be having a wisdom panel every month. And, just connect with us, engage with us, introduce us to other people. We'll do the same. And let's keep this conversation going. Thank you all for joining us today. And this was just curious fun.
So fun. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.